let's talk about the impending climate catastrophe. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has overwhelmingly agreed that warming is anthropogenic, mostly caused by the increase in carbon dioxide as a result of human consumption. According to United Nations scientists, there will be an increase of 6 degrees of warming in the next 100 years, which is enough to wipe out 95% of all species, and it will take over 100 million years for species diversity to return. Looking at the nearer future, pollution has affected the world in subtle ways that are detrimental to the health of the global population. Certain projections show a third of people dying of cancer due to air that is unclean and unsafe. In the summer of 2003, also, 2,000 people died from overheating in Europe, brought on most likely by rising temperatures. It doesn't take 6 degrees for humans to be affected by climate change. It's something that's already happening. Nuclear power is the most efficient way for the United States to reform energy production in the short term. Renewable technologies, for example, are in stages of infancy and can do very little. A global solar power system, for example, would consume 20% of the world's known iron resources and would be prone to drops in solar radiation. A wind farm that would produce as much energy as one nuclear power plant could occupy 2,000 square miles of land and would kill off hundreds of birds. Other renewable technologies are even worse in terms of hidden pollution and upstart capital costs. Robert Bradley of Houston's Institute for Energy Research estimates that the $5.8 billion spent by the Department of Energy on wind and solar subsidies could have paid for replacing between 5,000 and 10,000 megawatt electrics of the nation's dirtiest coal capacity with gas-fired combined cycle units, which would have reduced carbon dioxide emissions by between 1/3 and 2/3. No matter how many billions of dollars we use for R&D on these preferred sources of energy to make them more efficient, it won't even begin to approach what the nuclear energy already does. Already generating about 20% of our energy needs, investors are looking to expand even further. In combating global climate change, nuclear energy is thus absolutely instrumental, given that it emits no greenhouse gases and is ready now. The federal government, in an attempt to resolve the climate problem, needs to recognize that global warming can only be resolved by committing to the one uniquely safe and proven energy source available, nuclear power. And let's talk about the economy. The rest of the world is going to move forward with nuclear power and nuclear technologies, whether or not the United States approves. France already generates 76% of its total electricity by nuclear power. Around the world, other countries are looking to France as an example of whether nuclear energy really helped resolve energy needs. 30 new plants were under construction in March of 2005. Even Middle Eastern countries, with their vast oil reserves, are looking into nuclear reactors and nuclear power plants. The United States is experiencing an economic recession. Unemployment rates, for example, have skyrocketed to a new high of 9.2% in the last few weeks. Investment in nuclear energy is actually one of the most responsible ways of getting this country back on track. John F. Kotek expresses his frustration concerning the U.S. nuclear industry by asserting that U.S. leadership in nuclear design, manufacturing, supply, and service has severely eroded. However, given new federal initiatives such as the Global Nuclear Energy Partnership, or the GNEP, proposed by the Bush administration, the United States is at a unique time to capture those markets and reclaim that nuclear leadership. Right now is a key time to be investing in nuclear power. According to the American Council on Global Nuclear Competitiveness, the refusal to invest in nuclear power industry would mean that the U.S. is willing to forego multi-billion-dollar opportunities. That would include over 1 million jobs created in the United States. The ultimate result of that expanded nuclear energy industry would be the creation or retention of American jobs and factories and improved American economic competitiveness. In a time of economic crisis, one of the best ways of fixing the underlying problems is to start with the basics, job creation. Nuclear power would certainly help the United States in this regard by a lot. And what about the piles of nuclear waste? One of the industry's biggest concerns when looking at nuclear technology is the issue of how to resolve waste. Paul P. Craig of University of California, Davis writes that the nuclear industry has moved vigorously in an effort to force the government to honor its legal obligation to take over high-level nuclear waste. How the federal government responds to this issue of where to actually put the waste is absolutely essential to new plants and a revived nuclear market. Reprocessing should quell many fears about waste. Reprocessing breaks down the fuel and recovers fuel from the waste. As a result, there is much less radioactive material that needs to be buried. we're looking towards a federal solution to this problem. Many critics of the plan assert that we should turn to states to solve the energy issue and have the federal government focus solely on the economy. However, the idea of the states even remotely resolving national energy issues is laughable. It mainly comes down to jurisdiction. Only the federal government has control over licensing new facilities. So if we are to look towards a brighter future, that future has to include nuclear energy.